This is your last opportunity for our comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is our vision for the city. And everything is based on the comprehensive plan. Our zoning ordinances are based on the comprehensive plan, and everything below that is based on the comprehensive plan. So this is a very important document, and we are going to have to live with it for at least 10 years, because they usually last 10 years. I think we're a little overdue on this one. But please, I know that everybody here, we have a lot of condos that are represented here, and we have a lot of leaders and residents, and once again, it's great to see you all here. But this is your opportunity to speak. Please don't be bashful. I know a lot of you are concerned about the environment. So that could be either the lagoon, it could be the beach erosion, it could be air quality, it could be transportation, it could be anything environmentally. But please speak up. Don't be afraid to talk. Nothing is out of the realm, because this is a long-term plan. So it's very important that your voices be heard, and that our staff and their consultants hear what you have to say, because they're going to incorporate what you have to say. Hopefully they will. And I will, speak up for you as well when we get to that process, because the city council will have to adopt the plan officially. So it is important that you say this publicly and you let the staff know what's important to you, what you want to see for the future, what's your vision. These are important things, and it could be anything. It could be traffic, it could be noise. I mean, I heard from the people at the Ritz-Carlton, they're concerned about the noise coming from the Ocean Mall. It could be almost anything. It could be the AMRIT, for example, you wanting to do the MEOP, and that's a zoning issue. So these are all issues that we have to take into consideration, and it has to be consistent with our master plan. So it's very important that the comp plan meet your needs, as well as just the people that are writing it, because you are the people they're writing it for. So please be heard and be vocal. And with that, I'm going to introduce our Director of Neighborhood Services, who is Clarence Sermons, and who does a great job. He wears a lot of hats, by the way. Neighborhood Services, this is unusual for me. I'm from New York, where everybody has their own little turf and everything. Here, our Neighborhood Services department handles the building department and the planning department. So he wears a big hat. So, right, and code enforcement, right. So Clarence, if you want to take it over and start the show, we really appreciate it. And Clarence, by the way, is doing a great job. I've worked with Clarence now for about a year and a half, close to a year and a half. We're very lucky to have Clarence here with his expertise, and we have Scott Evans, who I've worked with. Scott used to be the executive director of the CRA for many years. Many of you may know him wearing that hat. He now works with Clarence as your assistant director, right? You'll introduce your staff, right? Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman Spiritus. Round of applause for your councilman, please, if you don't mind. He is a very passionate and bold leader. When we announced that we were coming on to the home stretch of the comprehensive plan, and we were going to have a citywide meeting just to close out our public hearing process, he wanted to make sure that we brought that meeting here to Singer Island to make sure his constituents personally had the opportunity to inspect what we've been working on for the better part of the last 2 years. Before we take this document to the city council for consideration of adoption, then it'll go to the state. But before we get into the meat of this evening's event, I would like the pleasure of introducing the most amazing development services staff in the world, in my opinion. First, I'll start with Assistant Director Scott Evans over here. Thank you, sir. And oh, can you? All right. Principal Planner Saneet Simon, who's going to come up and give some words in a moment. Planner Taronda White. Did I pronounce it correctly? Okay. And Mr. Juan Suarez in the back over here. Absolutely.
I just want to mention that the city manager was going to be here tonight. He's celebrating his anniversary, so we gave him the night off. But we do have his assistant here, Deirdre Jacobs, is here in the back, and I just want to thank Deirdre for being here tonight. We appreciate everything that she's doing.
Thank you. And okay, so as mentioned, the comprehensive plan is the highest level governing document in our city. It is required by the state of Florida that all municipalities have it. In it is everything related to the resources in our city, how we use them, and how we interact with other governmental agencies. So it's not just zoning and land use, it's also environmental conservation, it's also finance, it's also infrastructure and capital improvements, parks and recreation. All of those things are in this document, and it represents all of the policies and long-term goals that we have in those areas for our city. So over 18 months ago, the city council awarded a contract to CGA Consultants, who's been working hand in hand with our staff to bring this new document to the fold. We've had multiple community meetings, which Ms. Simon will speak about in a moment. And we've taken in a lot of input, we've done a lot of research, we've taken our subject matter expertise as people who work in the planning field, and we brought all of those things in to bring forth this draft document. And the purpose of this phase of public outreach is to ask the question, did we get it right? So before we bring this for any type of consideration by our city council, we wanted to give you this last opportunity to inspect the language here and let us know whether the priorities that we have for each of the chapters or elements of the plan align with your thoughts and visions for your city. And we also have the full text of each of those chapters on the table there. So you can read through it and check and make some markups, or take it home and work on it and scan it and send it back to us or drop it by our office. But we're serious about making sure that this document reflects the will of the citizens of Riviera Beach. And that's why we are going through painstaking detail to make sure we get it right, and that you have an opportunity to weigh in on that for us. The councilman mentioned that 10 plus years is the lifespan of this document. This is the unique opportunity when every word in the comprehensive plan is up for change or editing. In between that 10 plus year period, we can, of course, make changes to our comprehensive plan, but it's a lot harder. And it's a process. We have to take it to council, then to the state, and then back to council again, just to make a small text amendment. But right now, every word in this document is subject to the review and approval of this community before we take it for adoption. So to the councilman's point, we want you to feel free to give us your thoughts, look at the words there, and you'll get instructions on what these boards are for. We thank you for coming out. We appreciate your presence, and we thank you in advance for all the great feedback that you'll give us. And again, I'm Clarence Sermons, Director of Development Services, and I will now turn the floor over to Ms. Sinead Simon.
Woohoo! Thank you, Mrs. Sermons. Good evening, everybody. I am Sinead Simon. I am our principal planner. I am literally running from one. I had the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and then I had to run over here. So that's why I'm kind of out of breath and like, okay, next one. So here we are. We have been working on this since about spring of 2023. 23 is when we moved here, right? Yeah, 2023. And as we said, this is exciting. We're at this phase where we've been hearing from some of you all. We've been able to kind of see different things. I get emails. I get, please make sure you look at this. And so, and now we're pushing it onto this big draft, and we really want to hear from you. We really want to hear, does it make sense? What needs to be changed? What do we want to look at? And we have to remember, everyone has a different interest. We all, I want to make sure my house doesn't get, whatever. And then, but I need to be able to make room for my business. So we all have a different interest. So how do we put all our different interests into one place for it to make sense? And how do we make sure that we protect ourselves and we're a more resilient community together, right? So here we go. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing, and then I'm going to stop talking, and you guys are going to be doing the walking and talking. So how we're doing tonight's presentation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've been doing this process, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that. So like we just said, our plan is that long-term vision. The words on it is talking about our dreams, our hopes, and a bit of our concerns that we have. All right. How do we make sure that the sea doesn't overtake our spaces? How do we make sure that our soil is somewhere we can grow our crops? And our leaders are utilizing this every day to make the decision. For our particular plan, it's called Riviera 2040. Our aspirations in 2040, we will be like, right? And then the time in between. How do we get there? We talked about engaging with our community. So we've gone to different events and we've held different events to have our community members come out. We also had a staff steering committee. This plan every day, what's been working, we didn't even know this existed in here, right? So we've been talking about it and going through each of the words to make sure that this is a document that's not shelved, but it's something that we actually use. We've been looking at where is our city today? How's our infrastructure? How's our programming? Different things that makes us us, and where do we want to see ourselves? What are our plans saying that we'd like to see, and how do we tie those plans to make sure that they are example of what our community is asking for? We've met with our city council members as well as our planning and zoning board members, and we'll be meeting more with them around these end phases. And then we've been utilizing best practices that's been used around the country. What's been working in other places that's similar to us? What's been working with folks that have some of the same problems that we have? And what's been working to bring in business, to bring in the assets that we would like to have within our community. Where are we today? We are at, like we said, this is one of the last opportunities, but hold on. I hate to not see my caps closed. It's just, sorry. Where are we? We're looking at your feedback right now in order for us to say, this is what we wrote and what we wrote makes sense. Or let's look at that just a little bit more, okay? And so that way we can begin our adoption process. How do we do this? We did this through different modes of collecting data. We did a survey back in 2023, and then we sent it out. We asked folks through their mailing, and then we just ended up knocking on some of the doors where we didn't find enough response. You guys probably had it in your emails. If I had your email address and it's that one person that just keeps blasting you guys emails, I apologize for those. And then we held a couple of big community meetings as well as a business open house that we had in order to ask, what is it that we're supposed to be doing and how does this impact your community? We also had folks that invited us into their community so we can see the infrastructure, so we can see the types of homes that they had, so we can see how they utilize the streets. We went to different functions. This top one is a housing fair that they had. I was invited to different HOAs, and then we went to activities that were happening within the city. Where do we find people? We went to people. And then we also tried to figure out, we went to little shindigs where we got free wine. I didn't drink any of it. And we went to places where people were engaging about parks because, where there's fun events, people like to show up. And they were like, that's the first time I'm hearing about it. And I was like, that's why we're here. We went to scout meetings and just so we can make sure that we have input of folks of different ages and places. And we also did things within our city because the folks that work for us also experience the city every day. And we want to make sure that their input is in this. We did it where we tried to engage folks that were young, teenagers, little kids. We looked at more mature groups, and we looked at everybody else, those folks that's in between. Just trying to figure out, how do you use this place? How do you experience it every day? How are you able to? And as a person who broke her leg and had a broken leg for about 6 months, or ankle really, how do I experience the environment? It was absolutely different from when I was able to, utilize a space. And now all of a sudden, I'm like, this is a bit bumpy. I almost kicked myself there, And so we tried to get it from folks that all experience our spaces in different ways. What we learned. Our top 10 supported themes were folks wanted to be able to play in our city, right? We want to be able to say, I'm going to go out and have something great, and I don't have to take my car, right? We talked about, I would love to go shopping and not have to fight the folks on North Lake. We wanted more entertainment and bring back entertainment. We used to have this, and we want it back, or we want something even cooler now, okay? We wanted to look at, how do we improve the appearance of our city? When I come off of 95, I want to be like, oh, I'm home, right? How do I experience that? Enhancements on our parks and recreation facilities. Folks talked about being able to afford where we live. If everyone remembers, we do have a high rental rate here in our city. So how are we able to actually own here within the city? Growth and development policies, some of those they felt, this makes it a little hard for me to put my business where I think it should go. How do we look at some of those policies, right? That's just an example. The quality of our land, the water, our open spaces, how are we addressing those? We all know we've been all talking about our water a lot these days. Like, how are we addressing those? How are we going to afford this? How are we doing all of this? These are all big themes that everyone just kept talking about. And how do we conserve? We don't want to just ruin it, to use it, go, and then pretend nobody's coming behind us. So how do we conserve that? Our local business development, how do we draw people in and how do we support those that are already here? Expanding public transit access, our pedestrian and our bicycle infrastructure, how do we utilize those every day? I want to go jogging. I want it to not be so hot while I'm out there doing that, okay? And then public safety was a big one. How do we make sure that we feel safe, whether it's physically safe, emotionally safe? How do we make sure that we feel safe within our spaces? We came up with some guiding principles. Sorry, I thought I closed some of these because I want to get us to our activity, and I know your time is precious. But we're looking at doing our plan differently this time around. So we came up with what people were saying, and those came up with some guiding principles. We're looking at our neighborhoods. We're going to start to look more at our neighborhoods, right? So instead of just being this space where we are just planning and put house here and I put business here and industrial here, how do we connect our neighborhoods? Safety was big, like we talked about. Equity, how do we all, when with all this development that's coming in, how do we make sure that we're not just, you're going to use my street? Are you going to put a pipe here so that way we're not, we're not flooding? Those are some of the questions that we're talking about. How do we all get from it? Prosperity of our city, resiliency. And we're looking at the water, resilient as a city. And I want to give a shout out to Frank Fernandez is in the back, who has been really helping push some language and making us remember, got to be resilient. We've got to address our environment in these different ways. And then livability. I want to be here. We said live, work, make this place a place that I really want to be. Here we are today to do that. We're going to look at some of the language that we've been talking about. I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this little activity of mine. And then we're going to tell us what you think is missing. I feel like some of you began. All right, Purple. Some of you guys began some of this, and I'm going to tell you how we would love for this to be done. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. All righty. We have boards around the room. And for folks that are online, we are trying to set it up so that way you're able to do that too. But for right now, it's our folks in the room that are here. We're going to have different themes. Each board is a different theme. There. I'm sorry, I didn't see you till now. Each board is a different theme. What's on this thing that looks like a clipboard is a summary of the language. I have left the language here because I actually want you to pick it up and read it. But I've also done this thing if you're like, I don't really have time because I have to run to dinner real quick. I've left QR codes to our website so that way you can actually pull it up and look at the words, okay? I'm not expecting all your answers tonight, but I do want some of your thoughts tonight. So we put the summary here of what are the priority items that we're looking at. And I want you to tell me, I read this, it's pretty good. Oh, that's terrible. So I want you to you're gonna grab these round colored dots, and you're going to kind of rate, after you've read this, you're going to rate it and you're going to give me a 1 to 5. 1 being, it's terrible, right? 3 being, it's okay. And 5 being, stellar job, right? I'm not expecting a lot of 5s because, we all have opinions, but I do expect your honest opinion. So if you give me something less than a 5, it means it's not perfect. It means you had a different idea of what it should have been saying. So you're going to grab this sticky. Yes, I'm asking for one more thing from you. You're going to grab this sticky. You're going to grab your marker and you're going to write your thoughts down. This is missing X, Y, Z. I don't feel like you addressed A, B, C. And then you're going to put it right here, and then you move on to the next one. I'd love for you all to experience each station, read the summary, or grab the actual text. If you have been on this and you came in ready for today and you've been looking at some of the text and you kind of know where it's at, please mark it up. I am asking for your opinion. Dr. Spirita said it earlier. This isn't the time to be shy. This is what's impacting our assets here in the city. Okay, so please mark it up. And if you know that you want to get a little bit time to sit down, some of the other communities, they just send me emails and say, hey, I've read through this. Here are some of the questions that I have. They took it home and they did it. Yes, ma'am.
So you have your list of priorities. Are those priorities listed in order of priority?
Close enough. No, order meaning like this is my top priority? No, it's actually going in order of how it's written in here. I just kind of went down and said, yep, this is one of our priorities. And so it's not top priority. No. Our plan doesn't go into in those types of orders. The way our plan is going to look this time around is that we're going to have the policy language, but then we're also going to have these action items. What are some of the actions that we're wanting to do? And so that way we'll be utilizing our website, and we'll talk more about that later in the process. We'll be talking about how people can follow us over the years to see what it is that we're actually doing, where we are in the process. Like, this has been completed, check, or we are in progress, ... or we haven't even started yet. That way, it's a process that's transparent for everyone to see where we are as a city till we update our plan the next time around.
So if I can,
Yes.
I know that water is probably everybody's number one issue. So I just want to assure you that the city has that under control right now. We expect our new water plant to be up and operating in 2029. I'm giving you real numbers now. The plant will probably be done in 2028, but it takes 1 year for us to commission a plant. But I want to assure you that the old plant is being upgraded as we speak, and the water quality does meet or exceed all state and federal requirements. We have been to Washington. I've been there myself twice already to meet with our government officials on both sides, Democrats and Republicans. And we met with EPA. We have 2 applications in right now, one in for what's called the WIFIA program with the EPA. We're putting in over $100 million we're looking for from them. We also have money, an application going into the state revolving loan program, which is federal EPA money that trickles down to the state. The good thing about the state money is that the state can take 50% of that and turn it into a grant. So we're lobbying heavily to get the full 50% turned into a grant. That's another $100 million we're going for. This water plant is going to cost anywhere from $300 to $400 million.
Wow.
We're hoping it's going to be less. How are we going to pay for this? You know that we've already raised water fees substantially. We've raised it for really the next 5 years. It's going up 30% this October. So please tell your condominiums or your homes, your family, be prepared for that. We do expect with the development that we're planning on doing on Broadway right now, we have put in a substantial increase in the hookup fees and the development fees for those projects, the impact fees. So we hope to recover a lot of that money, and hopefully we won't have to do a full 5 years of increases. So that's one of the ways, additional ways that we're looking to pick up the monies that will be short from the state and federal funding. We're looking for other state and federal grants as well. But you do know that we have to do probably $200-300 million worth of water lines as well. Water, and we're also going to have to do some sewer lines with that as well. But we are upgrading the infrastructure. It has been neglected for years and years and years. If we would have just done this water plant a year earlier, it would have come in at half the money. Construction costs went from $180 a square foot to $350 a square foot in just 1 year. So the time it took for us to get to the point where we're at today cost us quite a bit of money. But we do have it under control now, and your water is safe to drink right now. And you know that I can tell you that the city manager and Deirdre could back this up. Our executive director, our assistant director, our plant manager for our utilities district, and our compliance officer that was here before when we had all those issues. I know you read about it in the newspapers or you saw it on the news. They're not here anymore. We're getting all new people. We clean house. It's a new day in Riviera Beach. And I can assure you that we have very competent staff here now, and things will be a lot different. So the water issue, I know that that's number one on everybody's list, is under control, and the city council is cognizant of that, and so is the city staff. And that is our number one priority as well, and we are working on it. So I know that that's going to be a number one issue that everyone's talking about, because they're talking about it throughout, I guess, all of the state of Florida is talking about the city of Riviera Beach. But we do have that under control now, and I'm proud to say that I've been a party to this new day in Riviera Beach, and I'm sure that everyone's going to be happy in a couple of years. Julie?
Does the plan that's in place now still include multiple points of access to Singer Island so that it's one way?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So, we have two lines, two water lines and two sewer lines that come in. One is in terrible, terrible shape right now. They're sitting on the bottom of the lagoon. So if an anchor, for example, were to hit it, they could pull it and break it. We do need redundancy. The city manager and staff, and I'm glad I was able to work with them on this. We are getting a new water and sewer line brought in. It's in design right now. We actually got approval from Homeland Security and the Corps of Engineers. I believe it was the Coast Guard, right, Deirdre, that had to give us approval on that. And I think we've got the approval from them now on that to be able to go across their waterways and their property. But that's going to be about a $15 million project. We do have the money budgeted, and yes, we are moving forward with that. And we hope to have that completed within a year, 2 years tops, but less, hopefully. So there will be redundancy because. Yes, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna fix the bad water lines and sewer lines so that we'll have three, and there'll be redundancy, so we won't have a major disaster. Because if something were to happen to those lines, we'd have to get everyone to leave the island. You couldn't live here. You'd have no water and sewer. So we are working on that. We're working on all the infrastructure in the city right now. Many of you are getting your roads paved in the next few days. And we hope to have all the roads done on Singer Island. And, it'll take about 5 years, 6 years, but we hope to have them all done in that time period. We're going to work very steadfastly and make sure that everyone gets that. But, many of the roads are going to have the water lines and sewer lines underneath them done as well. And we are working on that as well. Okay, so when you go around, just keep in mind that the water is already under control. Thank you.
That was great. Thank you. So how do we begin? And these are important questions and important topics that we talk about. You're just going to get on up. We're going to ask you all to kind of spread out and just you saunter around and read. Yes, sir.
Talk about some things.
Go for it. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
You can start.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. My name's Bill Contole. I've lived in Riviera Beach for 40 some years.
Hold on, Bill. I want to write down too while you're talking. Give me 1 second to grab
Okay.
paper. All right, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Some of you know me. I've advocated for the city on many times. I really appreciate all that Glenn has done. We got the roads started to get repaved finally. And this group here is working very diligently, I can see on this CRA plan. But I want to tell you that this whole plan is based on the fact that it's a CRA district, which we never should have had here on Singer Island. That was done 10 years ago or 20 years ago on the spoof that we were, this area was blighted. Singer
Sure.
Island was never blighted. It was a reason. And the reason is because it gives the CRA more power to do things on the island that you and I, frankly, don't want to hear. Now, for example, you see all these charts about we want to make the environment better. We want to make our businesses better. Well, that's what we do. But you don't do that by allowing a building contractor to come in here and put a 300-foot tall tower right there at the base of the Blue Heron Bridge. And that's the first of 3 or 4 of them. So the beautiful view that you have now coming over the bridge, looking out and seeing Riviera Beach for all its glory to show the world, is going to be nothing but a wall of condos. And the worst part about it is, I think personally, is again, the motive we're doing, protect the environment, help local businesses. Well, guess what this 300-foot tower is going to do? It's going to shadow the #1 dive spot, snorkeling dive spot in the country that Riviera Beach has. It's something that we all, the whole city, we should be proud of. We should advertise this. We've talked to the dive operators and the hotels and the restaurants. This brings in millions of dollars every year, way more than some stinking other condo. We got 35 of them on the island. Do we need 36 or 37? Sure, it brings in tax money, but the city has to pay for it. But what's happened is we're going to destroy this beautiful thing we have in Riviera Beach instead of protecting it like we talk about. Let's not just talk the talk. Let's walk the walk. Let's stop this kind of foolishness of blocking a whole island for one guy's multi-billion-dollar project that he's going to make a lot of money on. And it really irritates me that we talk about all these things. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm all for increasing the bicycle paths. I do it. Guess where my bicycle path is? It's on 1 lane of Broadway. I get to fight the traffic, but that's not really important. What's really important is we all understand that if we don't stop this project, the whole face of Singer Island is going to change. You're going to come into a wall of condos. We're going to destroy the dive area. I've been in contact with their attorney. He sent me a letter. He says, well, our biologist says there's nothing much there and it's only going to shadow the area in the morning. So you tell all these people that want to take a trip to Riviera Beach to dive in the #1 spot. Oh, by the way, it's not #1 anymore because it's shadowed all morning. You can come sometime in the afternoon and maybe see something. That's home to species that are nowhere else in the country. And to allow that kind of project under the guise of a CRA to come in here is an affront to everything that everyone here has said that they're for. If they're for the environment, if they're for the local businesses that are going to be destroyed, if you put a condo in and destroy this whole area, then this is just baloney we're talking about. I'm saying if we're going to do this, let's stand up and do it right and not just sit back and say, oh yeah, we're all for this. Let's do what we need to do and stop this kind of ridiculous project that's going to really destroy Singer Island and all of Riviera Beach's benefits and business and hotels and restaurants and dive shops that make money. That's just what I want to say.
Thank you for
You know,
that.
I just want to add to that. People don't understand what the CRA is. That's the Community Redevelopment Agency District. It's a separate and distinct agency. The City Council is the CRA District Board. We wear 2 hats. So we're board members for the CRA and we're board members obviously for the city. Scott Evans, who's sitting back there, worked for the CRA for many years as the executive director. But what Bill is referring to is that in the CRA district zoning, there is a district, a planned unit development district that developers can put in for a 25-story plus building to the city council. They supersede the regular zoning. Every developer that has property within the CRA district right now thinks they're sitting on an oil well because they're all selling their property. They're advertising it now as a 25-story plus zoning district. You know that I've been fighting this. I've been against this for over 6 years. I've been speaking out at city council meetings and other places. So what Bill brought up is very important. That's the purpose of this meeting, is to make sure that the planning staff for the city understands that the people on Singer Island do not want to see 25-story buildings at the south end of their island right now. I remember when I used to come out of the Waterglades, I didn't even have to look to see if there was a car. Now it could take me 5-10 minutes to get out of my own building to get onto North Ocean. This is the result of overdevelopment. A road can only handle so many cars. It's 2 lanes. That road is not going to be widened. I could tell you that right now. We can't handle it. But we have to speak up right now, because I could tell you these developers are lobbying all of the members of the city council. I've had meetings with them over and over again, and you know where I stand on this, but I'm only one vote. So it's very important that people like yourselves come to the meetings and speak up. I'm glad that Bill brought this up. This is one of the most important issues facing Singer Island right now. Very, very important. Julie?
I was gonna say, I mean, I've been to several meetings over at the marina where they've had this topic of discussion and we've all voiced our opinions, but if we're gonna do something, and it should matter to people other than people on Singer Island, because it's their view too when they come over. But what exactly, I think we need to have a plan of attack. What are we gonna do? Because you know what, all these people here, we're not gonna go to those meetings every single week at Marina. If there's one meeting and we can get 200 people or 100 people to go, I mean, where do we get the most impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I can tell you that on Wednesday is going to be the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. I will be making a motion at that meeting. I've already made that pretty clear. I'm going to be making a motion that we look into the CRA district and rethink the boundaries of the CRA district. I mean, it's like, CRA districts are for blighted areas to help rebuild blighted communities. Well, clearly the Ritz-Carlton is not a blighted area, yet the Ritz-Carlton is in the CRA district. That's crazy. That's the highest, they pay the most amount of money in taxes in all of Riviera Beach, is the Ritz-Carlton. Now that's crazy. Why, how could they be in a blighted area? None of that area is blighted. Everybody's sitting on an oil well. That area would all be developed at 8-story buildings right now if they didn't think they can get a 25-story building. So I've been fighting with all of these developers, but I will be making that motion. I can't make the motion to eliminate Singer Island at that meeting. I can only make a motion because it's for discussion purposes only. I can make a motion that we rethink this and we look into the boundaries, because there are areas in the city that are blighted that are not in the CRA district. Those areas should be in the CRA district. And keep this in mind too, that the CRA district, anything that's developed in the CRA district, that money goes to the CRA. It does not go to the city. All those taxes go to the CRA to be used for CRA projects. They do not go to the city to be used for police, fire, water, sewer, all these things. It doesn't go for the things that you think you're paying your taxes for. So I think it's time for us to rethink this and come up with new boundaries. Clearly, Singer Island does not belong there. I mean, we could use that money to pay our police officers more. We could do a lot of things with that money, those tax revenues that are coming in from the CRA district. So these are things that we have to look at. I will be bringing this up on Wednesday. I don't know whether the city, whether the CRA board will go along with me. Hopefully they will. We'll see. But please come to the city council meetings and the CRA board meetings. It could just be, be great if 200 people showed up. But when we get to the point, we'll see what happens on Wednesday. But after that, then I'll report back to everybody. Hopefully it's going to come up eventually to change the boundaries. And then we need everyone there to speak out for it. And if you see your council members, say something.
And I also wanted to add on to that. So one, we're not the CRA plan. This isn't the CRA plan. So I want to correct that. It's our comprehensive plan for the city. So it's citywide. But to say what you just said, what's this opportunity? This is actually one of those opportunities, because a lot of the things that whether you want a high rise or you don't want another high rise, it all goes through our plan, right? So this is that opportunity to be like, actually, this needs to be a little lower. So it's that table, and I left it all by itself because I know this is that's a hot topic, are the heights, right? And so at this table where it says land use, we need to make sure that your comments go there. And I want to see multiple comments. Even if somebody wrote it, write it again. Because for us, we look at that to say that was really important. A lot of people talked about that and say, I actually don't want it more than 4. So I don't want it more than X, Y, Z, right? Because of your view. And it's not, and just like you said, it's not your view, it's all of our view. And so the thought process is, people all across the city are concerned about it too. So write what you feel. This is the table for land use for what we just talked. I think two comments were made. Those are all land use. And if you think that the CRA needs to be moved as well, say that. We need to move that CRA. You're not the only person that thinks that. Those are things. Or if you say we are in the CRA and we should be in the CRA, write that too, if that's your thought process, at that table right here for land use. Yes, ma'am. So everyone online can hear you. We got to go through the mic.
So my question is, I wanted Sunit to share with the audience how your comments and concerns will be brought to the council for its consideration.
So individual comments will not be brought, but we will do a collection, like a summary of comments. And I think it's important, like the hot topics and the hot conversations, because this is the time for the council to hear that when the voices were heard and the voices were brought up, these are the things that they really talked about. So we talked about thoughts that happened about a year and a half ago. And so this final time, we'll be bringing up, what did people say? What was the thing that really kept them going? And they were like, this was missing, and we really got to make sure this is said, so we can bring that up for council to really hear that, because at that point now they understand this is what the constituents want. This is what the voters are saying, and we really need to keep that at heart. And then it's not just one person saying it, but it's a collective voice that's been happening to say just that. Did that answer?
I just didn't want them to think that their comments will go on.
Correct. It is not on deaf ears. Correct. Anyone else? Can I have you on a mic so people online can hear you? Thank you.
It's an honor to serve with Glenn on the board at Waterglades, 2 miles north. Yesterday at 4:15 a.m., as you know, Florida Power and Light had a surge. And we lost power briefly, but it totally screwed up our pumps in the condo, internet for a half hour. It was a problem. We're just starting hurricane season. Is FP&L not hardened sufficiently?
Great question. Those of you on Singer Island, which is most of you here, I know that we have some visitors from outside of Singer Island. Yes, we had a power surge yesterday, but we also had a power surge a few days ago that did the exact same thing at the Waterglades. So I spoke with the city manager and I explained to him that it's not hurricane season yet. What are they going to do when a hurricane hits if they can't handle this? And it was mostly low voltage stuff that got hit with this power surge. The city manager immediately contacted FPL, the person in charge of their infrastructure. You know that they had about 6 or 7 trucks on the island yesterday, and they had about 6 or 7 trucks there a few days ago. There are some trucks, when I pulled in here today, there was still 2 FPL trucks right here on East Blue Heron. So they're looking into it. They're going to report back to us. They're going to let us know what the issue is. It's possible. I don't know if it is. It's possible. You know, we're burying all the lines right now on Broadway. They do most of their work at night. It's possible that they hit something that impacted Singer Island's transmission. So we don't know yet, but we will know in the next few days. They will be reporting back to us. But we made it very clear that we're not happy, and we expect them to do something about it. So I could tell you the city manager did take this very seriously, and so did FPL when they heard from us.
Hi, my name is Harvey Gold. I live at Ocean's Edge. And I also want to talk about development and developing down here. We were faced with the building next to us called Condado, which is a small piece of land. Many of you have probably walked by Condado. It has a non-conforming seawall that comes all the way out to the water line. And suddenly we were faced with the fact that on this small, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but a very small piece of land with a 2-story building on it. The city of Riviera Beach was getting ready to have a hearing about putting a 19-story building on this piece of land. That was my first time being involved with Singer Island. We lived in Jupiter and we moved to Singer Island. The house was too big. I didn't want to do any of this stuff. We left our house and now I'm in the middle of it. So at any rate, we went to the hearing and the developer didn't have a picture of what he wanted to do. He didn't have a plan of what he wanted to do. He didn't own the property. He had a option on the property. We went through the hearing, we hired a lawyer, and we made sure that we hired a very strong lawyer. And our case was laid out, and the developer really said very little. When we got the results of that hearing, we found out that it had been approved without any picture, without anything, for 19 stories, and it had gotten approved. They had asked for three or four changes to the zoning, and Riviera Beach gave them 5. The one that they didn't even ask for. Because they had cut and pasted, we found a decision that was made before from somebody, and the person who ran the hearing was a magistrate who had no real estate experience. She was a magistrate from family court.
It sounds like the hearing was a sham.
I didn't want to say that, but I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, we were very upset by that. And so we had to appeal that. And on appeal, it was totally thrown out. But it cost us a lot of money to do that. The developer did say he would wash our cars during the construction if that's what we wanted. But at any rate, we were able to beat that back. I went to our councilman to try and find out what was going on. We never found out anything. It wasn't Glenn. And then we got the whole thing thrown out. The court said the developer had no standing. He didn't own the property. And there was no information. So I decided to go and meet my council people from Singer Island. And I made appointments with, I think, 5 of them. 3 of them didn't have the courtesy to show up at the appointment, which was very upsetting to me. And the 2 that did had no knowledge of what I was talking about. I think that lack of respect for taxpayers and for people who live on Singer Island needs to be addressed. Look, I'm not a not in my backyard guy. I've developed property myself, but go with what the rules are. You don't have to go for 30-story buildings when it's zoned for townhouses. So we have no objection if someone wants to put in some townhouses, but don't do that. Now I want to talk about Glenn. And I want to tell you, I am not a shill for Glenn. I promise you, I'll look in all of your eyes. I am not a shill, but this guy is a godsend. And what he's done is, you didn't know I was going to say that. Don't turn red. He's been very helpful. So we had another problem, and I want to talk about Glenn for a minute. Ocean's Edge, during the king tide this winter, lost all the sand under our building. I don't know if any of you walked by, but it was on Facebook. We had no sand under our building. Our building has 30 feet of sand It's built on pillars, and the pillars are covered with sand. So we had to do something. This is the second time it happened. Last time we spent $400,000 buying sandbags and having them wash away. And so we wanted to put up a seawall. And seawalls are quite difficult rather to put up. Glenn introduced us to the contractors who were working on Singer Island. He helped us through the process. He helped us get the permits that we needed. When the permits weren't coming, he pushed for them. And so we're grateful to him for everything he did. And I'm proud to sit here and say how helpful he was and what a good councilman he is. So we built our seawall in 40 days. Now we're going for a permanent seawall. That's a temporary seawall. And I want to thank Glenn and tell him how happy I am that he's my councilman.
Thank you, Harvey. I just want to mention that what Harvey just brought up about the Condado, what happens at the Condado impacts other properties on Singer Island from a zoning impact. It's not just the Ocean's Edge that's impacted. So we had a similar project between the Martinique and the Oasis, you know, that thin open piece of property with like an electric box in the middle there. So the developers, who are very, very big developers in the Miami and Aventura and Las Vegas, the Sofa family, they own the Fontainebleau, they're real big. They came here and they wanted us to do a zoning change. They submitted an application to the city council to reduce the side yard requirements for that property so that they could build. So they, of course, met with me. And I said, well, do you have the support of all your neighbors? I said, oh, yes, we have the support of everybody. Of course, I called everybody up and nobody supported that. That was all full of baloney. I then met with them again. They had, this was on the agenda of the city council. So whatever happened there on this piece was going to impact the Condado. They were going to be able to do the same thing at the Condado. So they were all rooting for this, all the developers of those properties. But Singer Island all got together. It was great to see the people in the single family homes and the people in the high rises. Everybody got together and was ready to show up at that city council meeting. We had close to 200 people ready to show up at that meeting. A lot of the condos had their attorneys ready to come and speak as well. So I just went to the developer and met with, they asked to meet with me the day before the ordinance hearing. And I said to him, I said, what are you doing? I said, you know, we're coming there with over 200 people. I said, I'm going to fight this tooth and nail. The people do not want this, and I represent the people. I said, why don't you just build this? And I'm a developer. I said, why don't you just build this as of right? So you'll have a little bit smaller building, as Harvey said. You'll have a smaller building, it'll be a little bit thinner. They then contacted the city and they withdrew their ordinance. They said, when I went to the bathroom and I came back, they said, well, we had to change. We decided we're going to withdraw the ordinance request. But let me tell you, it's not over yet. It's not over till it's over. I think they may try and come back again. A lot of people are trying to wait me out. They're hoping that, you know, maybe in a year and a half, I won't be the councilman anymore. You know, I'm not liked by many of the developers right now on Singer Island. And I know many of them. I know most of them. You know, we are in the same club. But please be careful, be aware. We have to keep bringing these same things up over and over again. And this is a great opportunity now to say we don't want to see the city council change the ordinances that exist right now that are in the land use plan. So here's your opportunity to do it. So this is why it's so important for you to be here tonight and say the things that you're saying, whether it be zoning, whether it be environmental, whatever the issue, say it now so that it could be included in the comprehensive plan, or at least as Sunit said, you know, it won't be your specific comment from you, but it'll be the people on Singer Island said this, and this is what they want. Julie, you have a question?
To the point of you might not be here in a year and a half, if they change the zoning, you might not be.
Well,
The point about the
I hope you're right.
No, the district did. remember?
Oh, well,
That's not-
for those of you, what Julie's referring to, many of you don't know this, but they tried to change the voting districts, the election districts on Singer Island. I think I was on the city council for about 4 weeks when they tried this. And Bill was at that meeting, by the way. I fought that wholeheartedly. I think I came in prepared with my information and set us up for a lawsuit if we had to, if they try to do this. Clearly, they were not listening to their own city charter when they made this, when they came up with the zoning changes. Our district was going to be Singer Island, all the way up Blue Heron to the railroad tracks where City Hall is, and go all the way north to Lake Park, to Silver Beach Road. That would have been the last time Singer Island ever saw a representative on the city council. No question about it. That's what was planned and almost happened. We fought it. Bill got up there and spoke as well. Thank you, Bill. That was very important. Bill threatened to sue them, which was great. But we fought that, and it has been technically tabled, by the way. It hasn't come up again. It might come up again, but I'm still prepared with the same arguments. There are many things that the federal government says you're supposed to have in common when you change a zoning district. You're supposed to have a lot of things in common. Politically, things in common, environmentally, things in common, land use-wise, things in common. We have a different representative on the county commission. We have a different representative in the school board. We have a different representative in the House. So we don't have a lot. We have a different representative in Congress. So these are things that I brought up at the meeting. We're not attached physically to the mainland. You're supposed to be attached physically. I brought up all the issues that's in the standard, elections law that the federal government puts out. They try to say that everything was based on census, by the way. They said that we only have 3,000 people living on Singer Island. Now, most of you know that you have close to 3,000 people living in your condominium. My wife and I actually went around. Joanne is sitting in the back, by the way. Wave, Joe, so everyone can see who you are. So we actually went and did a windshield. It's called a windshield survey in planning, and we drove through this and we counted all the houses. We counted all the buildings, all the mailboxes. I went online and looked up every condominium, and I came to about 12,000 people living on Singer Island, even based on our city's consultant for the election district, based on the number of units and people living in the units. So we have over 12,000. I then asked the city manager to go to the county assessor, to the tax assessor, and tell us how many units are there on Singer Island. And based on the county assessor, we have close to 12,900 people living on Singer Island. Isn't it funny, when it's tax time, they don't care whether or not you live here full time or not. You don't have to be homesteaded. But when it's election time, all of a sudden we don't count. I tried to explain to them when we do traffic counts, for example, we don't say, oh, we don't count that car because that person doesn't live here. Of course you count that car. That car has an impact. I represent technically as a councilman. If someone comes to the Marriott Hotel overnight, I'm that person's councilman while they're here. So to sit there and make believe we only have 3,000 people on Singer Island is totally ridiculous. So thank you for bringing that up. That's an issue that will come up again, Julie, and we have to be prepared. There's about 4 or 5 issues that if we all stand together, I think we'll be successful in getting what's best for Singer Island, and what's best for Singer Island is best for the city of Riviera Beach.
Thank you.
Another consideration on the weight of Singer Island, Riviera Beach overall, is the percentage of property taxes versus total collected. I'd like to know what that number is.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly, because that number has been banding around for years. Everyone, 40%, 30%, 80%. I asked the city manager, I said, I want the exact number of what we pay in percentage in taxes for the city of Riviera Beach. We pay 53% of the taxes of the city of Riviera Beach. Now, keep in mind that there's also probably another 25% that's commercial and retail that is paying taxes. So the vocal people are probably paying 25% of the taxes. or somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm not to say that their voices shouldn't count. Of course they should count, but so should our voices count. And that's what's important. We're one city, and we have to look out for each other. We can't just say they live on the other side of the bridge, so they don't count. We all count on both sides. There's one city. The bridge doesn't really exist. We're one city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm looking at time. It's 8:07, or it might be 8:10 now since I last looked at it. I had two comments that were here that wanted to speak as well. However, I do need to be mindful for my team that's also here. We've been here since 7 today. And I really need your comments because that's really important for us for this process. I'm going to give you guys, you have 1 minute. Okay, and the same. And then we will continue. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marie Davis, and I'm a single-family homeowner here. I wanted to know, with regard to the comprehensive plan, when you're making this plan, do you compare the older plans to some of the older plans with this? And secondly, how do you evaluate the wants over needs if some of these priorities you have listed are really wants instead of needs?
Say that last part again.
How do you evaluate whether these this list of priorities is based on a need or a want? How do you do that? No, how do you do that?
I have to speak into the mic because people out online have to hear as well. So your first question was, sorry. Okay, yeah. So what we've done with this process was we looked at our last plan. That one was adopted in 2010. We looked at what was actually done, and we looked at what was working and what wasn't working. Then we compared it to what our community was saying and looking at the trends. How did it actually work within our community? Did it help us or did it cause more damage? So we had our consulting team work on that, and that's when they did their existing studies that they did for our community to see what happens. And then from there, when we started drafting, pulling from what community has been saying, pulling from what practices have been saying, and pulling from what our needs are as a community, we started drafting language in comparison to the last plan. So some of the language is still existing language from our last plan. None of this, it's not a whole brand new set of words. Some of it we didn't get to this. So, but we would like to continue trying to do this so the language is still there. Or this is something that's going to be evergreen. It's going to last forever. So we're going to continue to keep it there. Or this didn't work for us. This isn't how our vision is any longer. So we're going to scratch that out and take it out. I want you to, this is important, and thank you for saying that. When you look at our documents, you'll see underlines, which means this is added language. You'll see strikeouts, which is language that we've taken away, okay? And then sometimes you'll see a strikeout and then you'll see it somewhere else and it's underlined, and that's only because it moved. So it's our way of tracking things and for you to track it as well. I have two sizes in my sheets. I have large size for people that have eyes like me and we kind of have to see it a little bit bigger. And then I have an 8x11 where it's a little bit smaller, and you'll see those on the table as well. That's me trying to move us along to the activity too. And then Marie, you asked the second question, and I know I asked you to do it, but my brain forgot since we were just talking about it.
How do you evaluate?
From wants and what's an actual need. Okay, so, and I kind of answered it, but I'm gonna give you more detail. So what happens is when we did our existing study, we looked at what's actually really needed here. And then our and people talk about it, I want my house to be $2. That's not realistic, right? That's a want. But the reality is, we need somewhere for people to live. Not everybody's going to be able to live where we think we're going to live, but there's some ways that we want to look at it. I know some of our needs is we can only take in this capacity. So we can only work within that space. So we keep that into consideration. We do have a need for housing for our residents here. And so maybe within some of these spaces, we can look at diversifying it. But then people were just like, I really don't want that type of house here. We look at that too. How many people really said that? And so we keep that, and we do consider people's wants as well. We start to go, does it make sense? Is it in the taste buds of the community? Yeah, we'll do it because people were okay with that. Or no, we won't do it because a lot of people talked against it. So we use both. We go based off of what is it that we really need, and then we compare, and we also add some of the wants into it. And that goes based off of the community. Mhm. But it's a fine tooth. And so we use our consultants to help us with best practices that are used around. Sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rabbi Beryl Namdar. I'm the founder of the Jewish community Chabad of Singer Island and the Beaches. And I actually just wanted to thank our councilman, Glenn Spiritus. It is refreshing to have such caring and action-based leadership. I can testify that for many people in the community, it means so much. So thank you, Glenn, for everything you do. We really appreciate you. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep.
As a neighbor, my wife and I are raising our 6 little kids in a single-family home here in Singer Island in Palm Beach Isles. And in this summer, during turtle season, I just wanted to open the conversation. I don't have a firm opinion, but I do think as neighbors, we should speak about this. We put great importance to protect the turtle nesting, which is a beautiful environmental idea. Try to teach my kids not to step around the nest if you see one. And I know a lot of condos aren't supposed to have their lights on in certain times, but there is a safety question, which is the streetlights on North Ocean Drive, which are off at night. If we're walking the kids with the strollers or the little kids on the scooters, and there's no streetlights at night or really dimmed, it could be a safety concern. And I noticed that when the lights are off on North Ocean, especially at nights, cars pick up speed 60, 70 miles an hour, and that's quite dangerous. So it's just a question of when it comes to the turtle season, maybe we should consider having the street lights on for safety, both from a pedestrian standpoint, as well as older people have difficulty driving when it's dark. I know some people who are older, they tell me they don't drive at night because of streetlights. And also from a crime standpoint, as the island empties out when it's off season, you don't want people to feel like there's no one there. So I know in New York thing is, yes?
There are rules and regulations about the lighting that's allowed on the turtle season. And we are following it here.
I'm not here to argue or create a stance, which is,
I'm just going to speak up because I don't think you're going to get bright lights there. We worked for years to get the ocean wall the way it is.
Yeah.
You see what happens to them when
Right.
those lights are there.
Yeah.
It'll break your heart. So we have to live within some of those norms.
Right.
If the lights are a problem, if you look at Juno Beach,
Yeah.
they have little bollard lights
Right.
along the ground.
oh, that's a good
People
idea.
can see things. Our lights are up there.
You bring up a great point. Maybe we should do a different type of
So
lighting.
it's all under Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
And we have rules and regs to follow, and people should. because
We
that's-
honor, the environment is very important, but shouldn't we balance it also with the safety of our
Well,
kids?
First of all, maybe I'm not a late night person, although I do come home from city council meetings at around 1 a.m. often. I haven't seen the lights off yet. I could tell you that we did have many lights that were out for a long time. We fixed most of those lights. The city crews were up there and consultants sometimes. We fixed almost all those lights. We even got the 2 lights that were cut down by Lozman put back up. And we have 3 more lights coming in. We're waiting for those poles. They should be in. We put 2 more poles up last week, and we're expecting 2 or 3 more poles coming in this week. Is it 4? Thanks, Deirdre. So 4 more poles will be going up in the next week. So we've been on top of this. The lights will all be on. I don't think that that's an issue on Ocean. And I can tell you that I am meeting with the police chief on Thursday. One of the items is the cars speeding down North Ocean. They seem to start up around 10:30 at night. You can hear them revving their engines, and they've been doing this now ever since I've lived here, and I've been here 25 years now. So we're gonna speak about that on Thursday.
So do not follow his trend and bring up a controversial situation when we're trying to, but thank you, everyone. And thank you for those responses and your actions. I think it's extremely important as we try to advance in our community. So please take the next 15 minutes and as long as you want. We're here. We have popcorn, so we'll be here all night. Please go ahead. Please stand up. Join us at our different sections. That was an important one. And please write that down. Your thoughts on that one. So come on up, please. Join us at our different tables. And come on. They've been wanting to do this for a while now. Come on. Let's do it. Thank you, everybody.